See, and now it stopped. That's how it is.
Yep. Yeah, it's totally quiet now.
Yep.
All right. Hitting record.
Let's hope new computer number 2 makes it through the podcast.
All right. It looks like we have, all right. It looks like we're there, but there's no one in the room yet. So as soon as someone tells us we have made landing, we will get this party rolling. Leah R says hi. So
hi, Leah.
There we are. All right. Oh boy. So, all right. Sorry we're a few minutes late, guys. It's been a hectic one for me and a Haley one for Dani. That was like a biblical sounding hailstorm you were having just 2 minutes ago. It
was deafening. I wonder how my datura did, because they were like huge chunks of hail. I think it lasted maybe like 5 to 10 minutes, and now it's done.
Yeah,
we're in New Mexico.
We had a hailstorm like that in Austin, and it was like not that few months back, right? And it was weird because it was like on a 90-degree day, and then like all of a sudden there's hail coming, right? And it's like it's one of those things that's like hard for the mind to process.
Right? It was like that. It was so hot today. I was like disgusted with how like sticky and sweaty I was. So it was absolutely one of those days.
Yeah, same here. It's one of those like the days where you just feel like you never can get dry or clean, and it's just this ever building like layer of like swamp goo.
Totally. I came home from racquetball and errands with a bag of groceries, and I just threw all my bags in the hall and beeline to the shower. Like I couldn't even wait to put the groceries away. I was like, I need to get this off of me.
Yeah. Yep. It's been a little sticky like that here lately. So you had an exciting computer-filled weekend. Yes. And
so I just did about it. Yes, because I just did a podcast on it, which dropped, is it Wednesday today?
I saw.
Okay, so first computer that I bought on Wednesday last week, they wanted to pair me with a sales girl wearing booty shorts, like legit booty shorts. And I told the guy who like sent me to her, I said, I'm really not comfortable buying a $2,500 machine from someone wearing booty shorts. Can I have a salesperson who's fully dressed? And then he gets off on me, like, I would appreciate if you would refrain from commenting on my employees' bodies. And I'm like, if it's dressed like a stripper and it smells like a stripper, I didn't say that. I was just like, I didn't make any comments on her body. I made comments on the clothes she's not wearing on the sales room floor. And I'm not comfortable with that degree of sexual signaling. And he goes, well, I don't agree it's sexual signaling. And I just shut the fuck up at that point. But I was like, I don't have enough ones to buy a computer from this girl. So then computer
that was a good one.
Thank you.
I don't know if there's enough ones left that are in circulation on this planet, right?
Correct. So then that computer, for everyone who doesn't know, broke in the middle or beginning of you and I recording our Friday podcast. 2-day-old computer just completely breaks. And you know when you get a new computer and you open it up and it just turns on?
Yep.
Right? So I wasn't dealing with the power button at all. And I was like super excited, like, oh, there are no biometrics. Amazing. And I didn't realize until I went through all that nonsense when it broke that Apple, diabolical psychopaths that they are, made the power button the biometric collection. And I'm like, wow, that is like a new demonic low. I don't believe in hate, but I fucking hate Apple.
All right. Well, okay. So for those of you who didn't catch that in there, we were trying to record an episode of our regular podcast, which we've been schedule. How do you say this? Schedule challenged for the last several weeks, and we finally found a perfect little slot of time. And we got about 7 minutes in, and then that was the end of Dani's hour-old computer. And so we have rescheduled, and we are recording tomorrow. So it would be a good time to go and get caught up on the entire archive of episodes available at wordspodcast.locals.com. Promo code welcome to words, all one word in capital. And then there will be a new episode there very quickly, probably by Friday or Saturday. So hop on if you haven't yet. And we had to hop off after 7 minutes, but hopefully things will go better tomorrow. We've, I think, passed the 7-minute mark that we've been on so far here. So seems like this computer might be the star. Yeah, you know what? I've gotten to the I have already for a while one of these computers where the power button is the biometric collector, right? But
I have 2 layers of tape on it, not just one, but 2.
I have I've been playing with a lot of these new insights for a while, but like I got to the point of so sure about them this weekend that like it's, you know how like when you have a new understanding about the way things work, it releases the fear of the old understanding you had about the way things worked. And so I had that defining level of clarity about some things this week. And so like a lot of the things that used to bother me, like they don't bother me at all anymore. And that doesn't mean that they're not a thing and that it shouldn't bother other people or whatever it is. But it's like they're just on to they're on to newer, weirder, more devious things. So at this point, the fingerprints probably mean nothing in the, you know. But as usual, like I have my most clear insights on the workings of reality, like while everybody else is you know, in their sort of like whatever everyone else is doing at a party. I'm like trying to understand the mechanics of the universe. So right. deep into the Mayan Warrior sound system this weekend, I was understanding a lot of things about the world that I hadn't quite been able to put together yet. And then trying to like reorganize them since then, right? It's always so clear in the moment you're having the thoughts. And then it's so hard to like remember how it all worked, like, you know, on Monday. So, and have you ever been to Mayan Warrior at Burning Man?
No, I don't even know what that is.
So they're a camp from Burning Man, and they've become so well known that they take their car to a few destinations outside of Burning Man as well. They've been doing that for the last several years. And I saw them here 2 years ago, the first time I've seen them, because I don't go to Burning Man. But I'd heard about them for a long time. And then last year, their car there was a fire and their car burned. So they've been doing fundraisers to build a new car, right? And this was their last fundraiser. So they've been touring and doing things without their car, just on regular stage setups. They'll debut their new car at Burning Man this year. And then they're going to Los Angeles right after that to do an off-burn thing with it. But so seeing them inside was very, very different than seeing them outside on their car, but equally as magnificent. And in some ways, just because it pushes them to use technologies that they don't normally use outside. It's like a whole other way of reimagining their aesthetic and whatnot. It was fucking really good. I was a little sus about whether it was going to be good without their normal setup, but they were like, have no fear, honey. Right? Like it was good. If you get a chance to see Mayan Warrior, like it almost doesn't even matter like what kind of music you like, or because I always think, I don't know about these DJs that are going to be playing, because they don't announce till like the day of who's playing on their stage. It's always random, right? Sometimes I'll go listen to a set and I'll be like, ooh, I don't know about this, man. But when I'm there, it's always fine because it's the entirety of the thing that makes the event. It isn't just like the music that sounds like this or the visual that looks like that. It's like the magic of the whole thing. So you should go.
Let me ask you, wherever it was you saw them, did you have to go through a metal detector and get your purse checked?
No, there's a like when you go in where the entrance is, right? They take your ticket, right? You can have a paper one or you can have one on your phone. It's just, whatever. And they have like a guy there with like one of those wands. And if you're a man, they'll feel your pockets. But if you're a woman, they don't do anything else.
So the problem here is that I imagine that they would be playing at at Meow Wolf. And Meow Wolf has metal detectors and purse checks, and I don't roll like that. It's so slavey, and it's just like, it just bums me out for the whole rest of the show that I just allowed myself to play along with the police state sham. So I don't go to their shit.
So I don't ever take purses to parties, so I don't know if I had a purse, if they would have checked it. I just bring my credit card and my lip gloss, and that's pretty much it in my pockets. right? And so I don't know if there was a purse check, but there was nothing that happened for me that felt invasive. Like I felt like if I was a guy, they were going to give me a pat down, but the pat down bothers me less than some of that other stuff, but they weren't doing that for women.
Do you
Right.
hear that? Like, no judgment, but the pat down bothers me less. Like, we allegedly live in a free society, and now we've become inured to having our bodies violated by these fake authorities who aren't even trained to do anything if they did find something. Like, it's also fake and offensive.
Correct. So I'm not like, there's not a part of me that is like, oh, I'm just totally okay with this. But when you're getting a pat down, there's a person that is like having to or choosing to do that. It is not in this robotic thing where people don't even realize what's going on. So as gross as it is, it feels like there's still a human behind this. That is
Right.
that, right? There's like a human engagement. And most of the time with pat downs, like unless it's a TSA pat down, like they're pretty unenthusiastic pat downs. It's just kind of like right or whatever it is. So I'm like, what I don't like is when there's machines that look like I don't know what they are that are by the entrances of places like
And
that.
that's Meow Wolf. That's Meow Wolf, which is why I went once after they installed those, and I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah, I went to Meow Wolf when I was in Santa Fe. Like I don't know. I don't know about Meow Wolf. I'm suspicious. But I think that there's probably places where you can go see Mayan Warrior where that wouldn't be an issue because I don't think that that's part of their ethos. I think when they're doing what they're doing, they're looking for a place that can accommodate what it is they need to do. And if they can find one that doesn't do any of that stuff, they're probably just as okay with it as if they can, if they have, right? Like they're trying to do their thing, you know? So, but my guess would be that there's probably opportunities to see them where it's, you know, like less police statey than others.
I'll look into it. Maybe I'll
But for all of you, they don't do very many performances off the playa. Like maybe they do some in Mexico. That's where they're from, right? They're in Tulum frequently and Tijuana and places like that. But in the United States, there's like 3 or 4 other performances a year. Probably in Mexico, you could probably go into like in Tulum or in Tijuana and
How the hell am I going to get to Tulum or Tijuana when I don't fly? And P.S. They ruined Tulum with their stupid fake Venice Beach hipster douchery. Like, I am offended by all the douchery. I just like things like down to earth, chill, low key. I don't like what's happened to Tulum. It hurts my heart.
I've not been to Tulum, so I don't have anything to sort of compare it to. But I do think they do stuff in Tijuana as well, and probably Tijuana would be accessible without. Well, I think Tijuana is a portal. I think if you can figure out how to go through the portal, then you can evade all of the border nonsense.
Yeah, if I could figure that, I would be getting my teeth cleaned in Tijuana. But I don't really feel like driving 16 hours to deal with a border. And do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Totally.
it's the one thing I most missed about LA is proximity to American Biodental.
Gotcha. I don't think I've ever been to Tijuana as an adult. I think I've only been there as a child.
But we used to buy opiates there, like all in my 20s. We were making runs. There was this awesome drug called Temgesic, or they would call it Temhesic. And it was a non-addictive morphine that I found when I was backpacking through Thailand. And it was like my favorite thing. And when I was waiting tables and it would get super stressy, like I was just the enlightened Buddha, like nothing ever affected me. And then we found them in Tijuana, and it was like, that was the jam in my 20s. And there were no negative side effects, and it wasn't addictive, which is why it's not legal in the pharmaceutical cabal we call the United States of America.
No, we have to have a fentanyl crisis. That's the
Correct.
only allowed to have.
There are signs all over Santa Fe that say, don't take fentanyl alone.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a vending machine, like, so over on like Cesar Chavez and I think like, I don't know, probably Medina in East Austin, there is a vending machine like out that has Narcan, right? So it's outside of a coffee place, right? And it's pink and it look right. And I was like, what the fuck? Like if you're fucking overdosing, you're gonna like have the presence of mind to be like, oh yeah, there's that vending machine over on. I'm just like, what the fuck am I living in, dude?
Yeah. Clown
Yeah.
world.
Anywho, all right, but my suggestion is still to somehow or another figure your way into, right? Like date the
I wrote it
or
down.
something like that. Yeah.
On the to-do list, figure it out.
Figure it out. All of you guys out there as well. I believe it's Burning Man and then LA on October 26th with their new car that is called the Galaxier. There we go. The flyer looks fantastic. It looks amazing. But this show is this was some of the best visuals I've seen anywhere except for behind my eyelids. And the part that was so freaky is like they would look like recordings from my eyelid. So anywho, all right. Where shall we begin? Dani is like the clip magician today. She has a few for us here, and then we will take your questions, your comments, and other stuff.
Okay, so I don't feel good about this, and I'm saving the real goodies for the show that we're recording tomorrow because I'm so freaking excited about that. But I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the assassination attempt.
Right.
But I have a couple different angles. So I think let's start with the short Tom Bilyeu just to get this taste of part of the spin that's being put on it. And then we'll take it from there.
All right, sounds good. Let me get this.
Thank you, Clip Master.
Here we go. All right, Dani brought the clips and I'm
fair use.
All right, fair use. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Assassination attempt on a former president. This is the first time this has happened since 1981 when sitting president Ronald Reagan had an assassination attempt on his life. This is what happens when you have narratives. Narratives have consequences. And that's the part that I'm really worried is going to get lost in all of this, that people are going to forget that the way that we choose to verbalize the things that are happening, or the way that we connect the dots of the things that are happening, are going to make their way out into culture. And the phrase that you've heard a lot, and that you're certainly going to hear me say a lot because it organizes my thinking. Politics is downstream of culture. There is a thing happening in culture. There is a wave that is propagating through the people that make up this country, and understanding how the narratives that all of us are putting out into the world will ripple through the humans makes it understandable that the way that something is framed has a massive impact on the actions that are taken. And so what we're seeing now, whether you love Trump or you hate Trump, we see the somewhat natural conclusion of saying we have a guy that is literally Hitler. We have to stop him no matter what it takes. You hear people using words like he has to be eliminated. And I have no doubt if you play that full clip in its context, I'm sure he says as a candidate or whatever. But when you use this kind of ratcheted up language, you are going to get these knock-on effects. And this is where I think people are not being honest about what's happening right now, which is the second and third order consequences. So the second and third order consequences of the way that Trump talks is very problematic in terms of it engenders a response from his audience. It engenders a response from the left.
Pause.
The second and third order consequences of the way that.
So this is something I'm noticing from the so-called alt media, and I haven't looked into it, but I would bet my life that Bilyeu, we're done with this clip, is part of Consilience Project, part of the whole narrative control. But I'm seeing a lot of the so-called sane IDW adjacent alt media saying that this is a direct result of Trump's communication patterns, like leaning into, well, Trump brought this on from the way that he speaks. And like, trust me, as a communications coach, like, I cannot stand the way Trump speaks, but I don't see him doing the hysterical name calling. Like, he does the shitty, the left and whatnot, but I don't hear anything near like the Hitler, the white supremacist, the like hysteria. So I found that offensive that like that was his launching point, was like, oh, Trump's the problem and everything else is the reaction to the problem that Trump started.
Yeah, I think that they're trying to do like their version of the both sidesism, right? Like the same, right, kind of thing. Like, so Yeah, I mean, I've been sort of like the Trump thing happened, right? Like a few hours before we went to Mayan Warrior on Saturday. And I had this very interesting experience there. And the way that the Trump scenario, like on both sides of it, framed it was really interesting because it felt like even more surreal than something that feels anyway. So like I've been like had moments where I'm kind of dipping in and trying to listen to a lot of what people are saying, and other moments where I'm just like I need to just not even give any attention to this because the way this is happening is so cartoonish, so clownish, so designed to like distract people to the point that we don't remember what we were talking about on Friday or Saturday morning or whatever it is. So I haven't seen too much of what you're saying, though I'm sure that is out there. But I was just getting my hair done, and like, remember I told you last time I got my hair done about how she was asking me about RFK and how it was like kind of evidence of the thing that I had been saying, because they had sort of walled off people into different groups who like will become interested in RFK at specific points that make it impossible for them to know what had gone on with him before or what might go on with him after their little phase of fascination. Well, this time we were just talking like very little bit about this. And like it was very obvious to her how like CNN, MSNBC were covering it like loud noises and Trump falls at his rally, whereas and they were refusing to call it an assassination attempt, whereas if someone had thrown a stone or a pebble at Joe Biden's feet at one of his rallies, they would have said someone tried to assassinate him with a rock. Like this is like savage barbarism and brutality. They must be a pro-Palestine support or whatever the fuck it is, right? Like it kind of thing. And so like there's no one is buying it, but you can't avoid it. But yes, right, there can't, whatever animus that there is that in this country that could lead to political violence has been so much more stoked by the left, not, I don't even want to say the left, right?
The media.
The media and like that whole like center left, like liberal media blob thing, right?
Have you ever heard, because I only hear them on No Agenda, but have you ever heard or watched The View in recent years?
I mean, only the clips that people that like, some people, Dave Rubin would play clips from The View. Who else plays clips from The View? Like whatever people are playing clips from The View, but I've never actually watched the TV show The View.
I haven't either, but just hearing the clips that they pull on No Agenda and knowing how popular that show is, it is the most low vibe, like disgusting, fictional invective. Like it's so bitter and biting and vitriolic. Yeah. And that's just like one piece of all the nonsense that they're pushing.
Yeah, no, well, I did hear that like a week or two ago, like Whoopi Goldberg said she doesn't care if we have a president that poops his pants. Sometimes she poops her pants. I was like, wow, we have really fallen.
Oh wait, and then Joy Behar talked about leaking in the grocery store. I mean, it's so base in terms of like they're getting it from every angle. Like what Obama tried to do to our country when he was the president is what The View is trying to do to the social landscape through their propaganda show.
Did you ever see Margaret Cho's I'm Gonna Shit Now bit?
No.
Look up Margaret Cho, I'm Gonna Shit Now when we get off. Right? It's a good one.
Awesome. All right, there's a new angle that they're pushing on this, and this is a tweet I'm gonna share. I'm not sure if you've heard. Oh, can you give me screen share?
Yes, now you can share. You haven't been able to share for so many weeks and months because your computer was slow, and now it's not slow. So yay!
Yay for progress. This is the new narrative. Can you see this?
Yeah.
It was just revealed that Iran plotted to assassinate President Trump on American soil. We're at the point now where a medieval Ayatollah feels emboldened enough to try and kill a U.S. presidential candidate. Our enemies don't respect Joe Biden and his policy of appeasement. This is not from The Onion. This is like legit.
Okay, well, I was telling you, like, I had been, listening to hundreds of things and trying to find something compelling to bring today. And the compelling thing didn't come until 30 minutes before we were starting, and it was rolling live, so it wasn't even really clippable. So Alex Jones it's probably over now, but Alex Jones is on with Candace Owens live today, and he was going hog wild. Like, and she's loving it. Like it's very clear what her role is, and that is to catch the people from like her class. When I say class, I don't mean social class. I mean her year of awakening, up to speed on all the conspiracies dating back to that, whatever,
Well, she's moving the Overton window of
100%.
conspiracy. That's her job in terms of this synthesis. She's as fake as any of them.
So he's there, like, just going fucking hog wild. And I'm like, this is a fucking setup, dude. Like, he's talking about the thing he is not supposed to talk about on YouTube after all the billions of dollars he's paid because he talked about it. He's like presenting a new theory about it on her show today. Right. And
also staged.
Right. But also, so he said this, he talked about this Iran thing. Right. And so he's saying that a few days ago on his show, he said that they're going to do what they did to Trump, and they're going to say it was Iran, right? And then after that, or a few minutes later at the same time, then there'll be a truck bomb or something at the White House, and that will be also blamed on Iran. And so they will have taken out both Trump and Biden and have done away with both of the problems, right? And I was just like, okay, right. But so just this half an hour ago, I heard he was talking about this Iran thing, but he's saying he predicted it a few days ago, and he had all of these other things that are going to happen, including someone getting poisoned and someone getting this and that. And he was just going buck wild because he had found like a new person fascinated with his stories or whatever it was. So it was highly entertaining, but also like I smell something like more than gefilte fishy at the deli, right? With him being on there and saying some of the things he says, because the new idea he rolled out about the school in Connecticut, right, would make somebody start to think about this one in a different way. Like, it's a mess, right? So, but that's there, and from whatever perspective you want to view that, it's funny, it's a disaster, it's enlightening on some level, right? But it's also fucking Captain Obvious. Like, if anyone who's like, yes, these are just two people out there, discovering reality as it unfolds and telling the truth from the goodness of their heart, you all are fucking crazy. All right.
Oh, wait, since you brought him up, I'm going to do another screen share. I wasn't sure to get into this, but so he and David Icke had a little Twitter tiff.
Yeah.
So everyone's sharing the same clips, and then David Icke says, yes, Alex, all relevant questions, but I have another. If the plan was to kill Trump, why did they use a 20-year-old kid and not a professional marksman who would not have missed? And I was like, et tu, David? Like, that's how they always do it with these assassinations. Like, what? It just totally made me question David and wondering, like, what this public spat was about.
Well, they've been spatting for a while. They didn't get along, and then they did for a period of time, and then they started spatting again. But the more messy it can be, the more useful it is. Because the longer time, because think about like how many hours of videotape and days, weeks, and months people are going to analyze this and not pay attention to anything else that they were paying attention to before this, or anything else that's going on now. Like, I'm trying to figure out, are any new bills being passed this week while everybody's right? That's what I'm focused on.
100%. Like, that's the most important question. And I look forward, both you and I having the time and the bandwidth to figure that out.
Yeah. Right. So I mean, and I'm even, from my own perspective, is like, at this point in my life, anytime anything goes boom, right? Whether that be a gun or something else or a speaker system at a party, I'm like, what is the chaos of all of this allowing to be moved through that no one is paying attention to?
I feel like that's the only sane question to be asking when something like this happens, is like, what do they want us to not be paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I even questioned like all this stuff is like it was like every rave that ever happened like an opportunity to like transport somebody interdimensionally and nobody would notice because they're just dancing at the party. And like I had this thought for a long time about the occurrence in Boston when people were running, right? Like that the amount of chaos that was created there, like that felt like dimensional portaling of something from one place to another under the with the chaos being the cover, right? Yep. And so these are just my more like you can't, this is so intentionally sloppy. It's like so intentionally sloppy that they don't care. It's like, great, we don't care at this point about looking incompetent, right? Like, because the amount of time we'll have a version where we're incompetent, we'll have an inversion where we're like diabolical and cruel and conspiratorial. Like we'll have a version where it's like this sort of confused thing and one hand didn't know what the other hand was doing. We'll have a version where it's Iran, we'll have it right, and everybody will be busy with this for till at least the election.
The Iran thing is so ridiculous and baseless, but yeah, a thousand.
I'm just surprised they didn't say Hamas. Right.
So let's go to the Robert Phoenix clip, and then because there's a punchline to this that I want to get to before.
And just for shits and giggles, fair use.
Yes, fair use, Robert. Thank you for that.
All right, here we go.
Here we go. This is exactly what I'm talking
That's
about.
Funny that I said here we go, and then
right
he said
here, and there we go.
Pause.
This is
okay.
I do want to say the picture is so fucking baller,
Right?
and like, if that wasn't staged, that is just a mirror. I mean, the fact that he survived and turned his head and all of that, but the photo op,
right,
is like a wet dream for a political candidate. That is such an iconic badass picture.
That's pretty crazy. And remember, I told you this happened right before I went to Mayan Warrior. So Mayan Warrior's whole like visual stage show looked almost exactly like that with a double pyramid.
Fascinating.
Right. So like, I wonder if like the sound portal that opened was sort of like, maybe there's something about that day. Right, like Mayan Warrior is very specific. They only perform a few times a year, and so like maybe to bring like cool, high vibe, majestic experiences, it's like the same open door day. You can do your dark shit, you can do your light shit, you can move things through, right? Like and lots of different groups of people know about it and they use it for different things, right? But that these card games never fail. This card, everything that happens, there's a card for it.
Yeah, Robert has a great deconstruction. Let's listen.
All right, let's hear it.
Trump with the Illuminati card. Enough is enough. Now, what's interesting is the image has this kind of blur streak right here, right? Which, if you look at some of the other images with the bullet, right, it does look like a bullet or a tracer crossing the face. Okay, this game came out in the 90s. And it was created by this guy named Steven Jackson here in Austin, Steven Jackson Games. And after the game came out, the FBI came to his, he had a shop, I think. And they came to his shop and they took all of his cards. And I think that they were questioning him because the stuff that came through the Illuminati cards is fucking crazy, right? It's crazy. And this is one of the examples of the crazy, right? Like this synchromistic kind of folding of time space. So was Trump around in the 90s? Sure. He was around. Did he look like that in the 90s? No. But it certainly does capture the vibe. So listen, look at the text. At any time, at any place, our snipers can drop you. Have a nice day. Are you fucking kidding me? Now, maybe these guys are reading the Illuminati card game. Maybe that's how it's playing out, right? But in terms of this, I guess you'd call it synchromistic kind of moment, right? Like, this shit is next level. Now, what's interesting is that The Simpsons, who have their own version of predictive programming, they had Trump dying. I mean, I don't know if you know that or not, but there is a picture of Trump in a casket. And a lot of the Simpsons predictive programming, maybe because they're writing the script as well, has turned out to be like shockingly on point. Well, so far, as of July 14th, that hasn't come to fruition, right? But look at that. Have it at any time, any place, our snipers can drop you. Have a nice day. Play this card on your own turn before drawing any plots. You may remove all zap, paralysis, or attribute freeze cards that are affecting your power structure. However, preoccupied with your house cleaning, you may draw no plots this turn. Draw no plots. So this card, which is interesting, frees up all these other things that would be, let's say, again, this is like kind of Magic the Game or something like that, but it's got its own, kind of rules and rules of engagement, right? So let's just look at this line. You may remove all zap, paralysis, or attribute freeze cards that are affecting your power structure. What does that mean? What does that mean? Now, clearly in the game, it means something because, I think through these cards, each individual is attempting to take over the world, using the powers and the tricks of the Illuminati. Now, this game came out of the world of Robert Anton Wilson.
Yeah.
So Robert Anton Wilson wrote the Illuminatus trilogy, Cosmic Trigger. If you haven't discovered the writing of Robert Anton Wilson, I highly recommend it. There's a lot of very interesting truths that are buried in his work, but he is not somebody who is going to tell you up front what's happening. Robert Anton Wilson is known as a Discordian, and that's kind of the world that he comes from, is Discordia, right? So he is kind of an agent of chaos. But he's brilliant. He's really, really
All right,
brilliant.
so let's continue with this for a second because this folds in super. Okay, this is amazing. Like, and all right. So look at the picture there, right? You know how I always talk about how things reflect upside down in the water here in Austin. All right, so just everybody snapshot in your mind the picture of the Trump card here. So here's this is the flyer for Mayan Warrior in Austin. Okay.
Whoa.
Now, that is what their visual, they have this kind of crazy, interesting, like visual portal that they've created. And it's this sort of this pyramid thing that I can't explain it to you unless you're there. It's fucking fascinating. But the show was not downtown. The show was at the Concourse Project, which is out by the airport. But for some reason, they made their flyer with it literally in the area that I call my portal. Right, where the proper hotel is, where the Austin City Music Hall, that's exactly what you're showing there. And anybody who's been walking around downtown Austin with me and me showing them the way the water reflects certain places, Marcy, Jeff, they've all seen this. Like, that area is an area where there's a complete, perfect, upside down version of Austin in the water on a clear day. And when you look at it in the water, you can see definition that you can't see in the real world, which leaves me asking the question, which one is the real world and which is the reflection, right? I think that some of these portal cities, and I've come to this, some thoughts of my own and some things other people have egged me along with and whatever it is, like, I do think there's an upside down. there is another version of this universe that is mirrored below us and that is going in the opposite direction, right? And so this guy, Steven Jackson, who he's saying made this card game, he was living in Austin when he got raided for having made this card game. I think one of these portals to the sort of inside out and upside down, sort of this reverse universe type thing that Chris Miner there's this book by this guy named William Sidis that's about the reverse universe, right? So if something has already happened, like if there's another universe that's that's reversed, it's already happened in that one. And if you're in a place where there's a portal to that sort of upside down, I have a feeling that there's people that have figured out how to cross over into that one and get a glimpse on sort of what is coming. And whether it's like a definite knowing or just a feeling because you've had this odd set of circumstances or experiences and you can sort of feel it coming before it happens based on the fact that somewhere you've been, it already has. Like, I think Austin is one of these locations. I do think that's probably why Mayan Warrior chooses to perform in Austin, even though Austin at this point is nowhere near an important dance music place in the country or anything like that. But whatever this shit is that's going on downtown, they're trying to tell you there's like a serial killer here. It's not. People are disappearing into the fucking portal. Some of them are coming back out and some of them are not, right? Some of them are probably doing it intentionally and some of them probably just find themselves wandering in a world that they then can't get out of. And what, like, that card right there, the fact that like this happened like right before I went to Mayan Warrior, and this is sort of what Mayan Warrior had performed on Friday night too. So it's all weekend, maybe the portal's open or something like that, right? They performed on Friday night, they performed on Saturday night.
Well, wait a minute. Saturday was the exact, no, is that right? I think Monday was the exact day, but this Mars-Uranus conjunction, I would bet, has something to do with whatever portal opened and what went down over the weekend.
I think it's entirely, I mean, I think it's just like whenever there's going to be an opening, you can do all kinds of things with it, and people do, right? Now, what he was saying about Robert Anton Wilson and him being a Discordian, right? So like some of the Discordian movement is connected to Church of the Subgenius, which is something that emanated out of Austin here, right? They're all Discordians too. And to me, like Robert Anton Wilson would be the sort of classic type of and there's others and they do it in their own way, right? But who has discovered that there's another version of reality that allows you to be able to have an understanding of what's going on and what's coming in this one, that once you sort of figure out the secret, you're kind of in this spot. It's like once you figure out how the conspiracy works, you become part of the conspiracy, and then you're trying to manage living in Chapel Perilous. That is literally what Robert Anton Wilson says. He calls it Chapel Perilous, right?
So I think this reality is the inverted reality because we don't see what is. We see the inversion. Our eyes, like we're not seeing clearly. So I think when we talk about like inverted clown world, it's not a metaphor. It's not an overlay. It's not like a distortion. It is what this version of reality actually is at its core.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when I'm looking at there's certain areas that I've identified that when it's totally clear, like I literally think I can see something else and someone else and something going on down there. And it's just a question of like, do I have the balls to fucking dive in and go see what I find? Right? Kind of thing. Like I pointed this out to numerous people that I've been with and they're like, that is fucking weird. Like, look at that. Like that is.
When you say dive in, do you mean literally go into the water where you're seeing the inversion? Or are you talking about metaphorically? And I wonder if that ties into the underwater marine land training.
Right. No, I think I'm going to have, if I want to know, I'm going to have to go into the water.
Are you going to do it?
I don't know. Like I've been playing with it, right? Like, I mean, the amount of people that go missing in the water here, right? But I don't know that you have to like dive in. I see.
We tie a rope around your waist, like a really, 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 really long rope, like they did in Poltergeist for whatever Anne.
So I also see all kinds of portals and doorways inviting me to step underground that, like, you know, there's certain things I'm gonna have to overcome. But, like, you know, I spend a lot of time observing. I survey my landscape almost every day, and I've been on this time in Austin, I've been here for 3.5 years now, and I still discover something new about the landscape every day. And sometimes I think it's new because it really wasn't there the day before, and other times it's just I didn't notice. And I'm trying to do many layered orders of paying attention to kind of see sort of what's going on here. But I also know that at some moment it's going to take an act of bravery if I want to discover the complete answer. And so it's just picking my spot.
Interesting. What were the charges? Like, what was the story behind seizing?
Oh, and by the way, that where that pyramid is placed right there and where I call my portal is the proper hotel. And that's, like, you know, we're pretty sure that Elon Musk lives in the penthouse there, right? And of course, when I went to the proper hotel for my birthday that day, I received these interesting Facebook communications from Elon Musk. Did you see that? Right? It was like, what the fuck, with, like, my mom's birthday on there. It was very, I mean, I don't know what that was all about, but, like, he just gave, as soon as this happened, he started donating all this money and supported Donald Trump, right? Which just adds to that weirdness of that pyramid being right there on that spot, right? And that power plant that's right across the street there. They're hard to see, but you can see them if you really look. There's 2 little Tesla towers right on top of the power plant.
That's an interesting point, because I remember when Elon kind of moved his operation to LA, and it was right around that, like, Hollywood Highland area, which is
right?
so demonic and fucking weird.
Right?
So that
But
would
that's
make
right where the Hollywood Bowl is. So of course there's a portal there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Magic Castle's right there, and, like, all kinds of weird shit happens there, and
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Okay, so under what auspices did they seize the game from this guy?
I don't know. That's just what Robert was saying. That's the first time I've heard about that.
I'd just be curious to
Let's
know,
look
like,
it
if
up.
charges were brought against him, or
Steven
like,
Jackson Illuminati card game. Let's see if I can find it. I'm just learning about it from Robert right there. So, all right, Steven, let's see. Let me see if the card game arrested.
we got a super chat. Thank you,
Yay!
Karen. We love you. We love you. Thank you so much. We love your super chats. They really help us keep going. So thank you, you guys. We love
Who
you.
gave us the super chat?
KR, love and peace, with a heart, prayer hands, and a bumblebee.
Thank you. All right. Steven Jackson games versus United States Secret Service. And of course, the Secret Service is who's implicated in whatever is going on with Trump this weekend.
So this is the next piece. But wait, the United States Secret Service? What do they have to do? Aren't they only there to protect
Well, let's read
the
it.
president and the higher ups?
Steven Jackson. So this was a lawsuit arising from a 1990 raid, so Robert was correct, by the United States Secret Service on the headquarters of Steven Jackson Games. And of course, there we have a pyramid with the eye on it, right?
Yep.
And the whole area of downtown, if you really look at the underground of it, it's built, you can see it on the bridges, like step pyramids, just like the Mayan pyramids, just like that, like, you know, kind of with, like, the step and the sort of limestone brick. The raid, along with Secret Service's unrelated Operation Sun Devil, was influential in the founding of the Electronic Frontier Foundation. What's the Operation Sun Devil?
Electronic Frontier, I believe that's
I know what that is, but I've never heard about.
Is that John Perry Barlow?
I think it is, and you see them often with, like, Edward Snowden and Julian Assange and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
In October 1988, Bell South became aware that a proprietary memorandum related to its 911 system had been posted on a bulletin board system in Illinois.
Pause. The date is 333. I just did the numerology for March 12th, 1993. That's 333.
Great.
The date that it was decided.
Yeah, okay. So, all right. So This was reported to the Secret Service in July 1989. In February 1990, Secret Service found that the document had been posted on the Phoenix.
Hold up. Why would this be reported to the Secret Service and not the FBI or the CIA? Was it because it was
My guess would be, so it's saying here that what happened, a proprietary memorandum relating to its 911 system, a guess would be somehow that. All right, let's just read this part so I can understand what it's about. Okay. BBS in Austin, Texas, which was operated by Lloyd Blankenship, who was at the time employed by Stephen Jackson Games and moderator of the company's own bulletin board system, Illuminati. The Secret Service believed there was probable cause to search computers belonging to Blankenship and his employer, and a search warrant was issued on February 28th. The Secret Service executed the warrant on Stephen Jackson Games on March 1st, 1990. 3 SJG computers were seized, along with over 300 floppy disks. Among these was the master copy of GURPS Cyberpunk, a role-playing game written by Blankenship, which this SJG was about to release. The Illuminati server included private personal emails to and from. The material was returned in June 1990. Like, I'm not understanding why here.
Me neither.
But my guess would be that my guess would be that one of two things, that they found this as like they somehow perceived this as like a quote unquote credible threat, right? Or whoever was doing this had pierced the portal that we're talking about and was able to see into what the future, or quote unquote the reverse universe, and were knowing what was going to happen. And like, if there's plots to do something and it hasn't happened yet, but somehow people who aren't part of the plot know what's about to happen, right? Then you're going to go after them because you're trying to perform an operation and someone has penetrated your operation.
So, okay, let's just break this down, because no one's going after the Simpsons, but I'm sure they're read in and have clearance and whatnot. But like, the Secret Service watched a man point a gun at a president and did nothing, but the same Secret Service, obviously different people, went after someone who created a game.
Well, I mean, so many things are true at once, right? So if there's a universe over there where some things that haven't happened yet here have happened already there, the same thing has to be true in the other direction. So it's entirely. Did you watch Tenet? Did you see that movie called Tenet?
Maybe. What was it about? What was in it?
It's a Christopher Nolan movie, and it's basically like they have figured out how to move sort of forward and backward in time and intercept things and stop things that are about to happen based on what they've learned on the other side, and vice versa, right? So if you're aware, it's kind of like a crossover that someone's coming into yours and getting out ahead of something. Well, you can go into theirs and get out ahead based on things that have already happened here but haven't happened there yet.
Okay.
Right. It sounds weird, but like, you know, and there's also, if you think you're doing something, right? Like if you think you have some magical insight into something, or you've designed a conspiracy, you think you're out ahead of other people. But if someone figures out what you're doing and penetrates your operation, and then you're like, wait a second, what's going on? And then you're going to start backtracking, and you're going to find people. And then you get to the place where you're questioning whether they've penetrated your operation, or they were doing something first that you penetrated and you thought it was a discovery of your own, but really it was someone else. You walked into someone else's plot, right? Like there's so many. If we live in a multidimensional world that is that is more approachable than what we've ever sort of imagined to this point, then there's a lot of things at play that would not have been considered otherwise. And I think, and this has been pretty clear to me for like a while right now, that a lot of these events have that at play, that they are not just happening in one place in one time on one level at one layer, right? That they're sort of interdimensional events that play out slightly differently at each layer of the cake. And that each layer is affecting the other layers. But there's like remember when we were seeing in like the Boston event, like multiple versions of what seemed to be like the same scenario, clips about that coming out.
Yep.
Like, I think that was some of the first evidence of that I noticed. I'm not saying it was the first evidence there was, but the first thing that I noticed that I'm like, wait a second, how are they pulling off like different versions of the same thing at apparently the same place at the same time?
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Like, it would be interesting if like some of the media is trans-dimensional, right? Like some of the technology can cross the dimensions in terms of like, you can use some of these platforms like YouTube or Facebook or email across dimensions, and others you can't. Others are just sort of linear in their existence, right?
So, you know, when we always talk about like the map, the conspiracy map that, you know, every truther wants to get going, where we piece it all together. I feel like next we're being called into the multidimensional map, and who's operating on which dimensions, and also who knows that
Correct.
they're operating on the different dimensions. That's the next level. But you and I still haven't even gotten it together to organize our words shows.
I mean, I've been playing around in that for a while, but more from an observational space. And I'm starting to get more and more clear on who some of the players are in this. And they're starting in my, like, and I'm not talking about necessarily like famous people in our realm, but there's certain people that seem to pop up whenever I'm like thinking about certain things or doing a certain thing that are out of place for what that is. And like they show up and they're like winking with me and toying with me. I'm like, oh, hello, I understand what's going on here. It doesn't feel nefarious. It doesn't feel terrifying. It's like this game of like, have you noticed yet?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
All right.
But just think, if we have access to multiple dimensions that have different sort of time pockets for us to get our shit done in, maybe there's hope for us.
True. You gotta dive in. You have to dive into the reflecting pool portal so we can get our productivity on. Okay,
Right.
The last piece in this.
Oh my God, we have a lot of super chats.
We have so many. Jim Montgomery and Wendy Q are freaking superheroes.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you guys. Whee! Okay, go ahead. And then we'll move to, you're going to say something, and then let's move to questions and comments.
Okay, so this is the last one, just to bring it home, bring it all home for us, is this one.
I know, right? Like, why would he want it?
At this point, like, it was ridiculous enough when he was asking for it, given his family history.
Right.
But now, after the Secret Service failed Donald Trump,
Right.
and he's not handling this with any irony or sense of humor, like he and shenanigans are all like, yay, thank you, President Biden. Like, to me, this is the clowniest part of the clown show.
What was funny is like,
this is the thing.
The other day I texted Robert, I bet Bobby's glad he didn't get that Secret Service protection now. And then literally like 2 hours later, that story came out. It was almost like they were responding to my poking, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even know. So yeah. But like within all of this craziness, right? Like, I still think that there's like many spinning plates here. And everyone's like, well, Donald Trump is for sure going to be president now. I'm like, hold on, little children, right?
We have so much time for so many different multidimensional psyops to go down.
Yes, completely. Right. So, and like, I have things that like, I sometimes I'm asking myself if I'm in the same fucking reality today that I was in before the weekend. Right. I'm having some weird fucking stuff go on that I'm like I'm just like, I'm not sure I know what to make of this. Right. But I've been like essentially on some version of a carnivore or animal-based diet for like many years now. And every once in a while, I'll get kind of tired of eating meat or whatever. Like I go out when, you know, like I'm not strictly on that, but it's like during the week and when I'm not going out to dinner and stuff like that, that's what I mostly do. Right. Since the weekend, like I can't eat meat. Like I cooked a filet the other day and like I ate half of it and I was like, I cannot eat this. This is gross to me. And then yesterday, like we went someplace that had some chicken wings that I like and whatever. And I was so excited for them. And I bit into it. I was like, oh my God, I can't eat this. So I don't know if I just have some weird thing passing through and it's just whatever it is, but this is what's weird. Like I'm here living now in the area of town where I spent a lot of time when I first moved to Austin in the 90s and where I had my first like multiple versions of the world experience that sort of resonated in a way that I can kind of keep track of. And also like I hit a frequency band on Saturday night where I was like dancing in a way I hadn't danced in like 20 years for a bit. Right. So I almost wonder if like I dematerialized and rematerialized into like a different version, a previous version of myself. Like I was a vegetarian when I lived here before. Right. Like I don't feel any of the psychological driver for that or whatever it is. But the repulsion with which I have had at meat so far this week has me paying attention to a variety of different things. It's fucking weird.
That I'm also, because I love meat so much, but it's just this past weekend I had a couple conversations with friends who brought up like the density kind of interfering with more astral travel, other spiritual things, which I hadn't thought of because I was just so happy to finally find a food that my body liked.
Right.
It really resonated. I was like, oh, like that's a thing. So for me, this is weird this week of like how little meat I'm having. So I also wonder if it isn't in the zeitgeist, because remember all the like vegan raw foodists all of a sudden became carnivore, not because we had a meeting, but because there was something in the air. So I'm also wondering if we aren't like collectively feeling a push. I don't know. I like better the story that you dematerialize and have rematerialized into a different dimensional iteration.
Yeah, right. So anywho, like I don't know what it was, but for like a second I felt like I was like 25 again, like I could move with like a reckless abandon, that like I wasn't afraid that I was gonna hurt myself. And just I don't know, have you ever had a moment like that where you're like, oh my God, it felt like the magical first time right? And I had a few of those moments on Saturday. And what's fucking weird is for me, whenever my body can move a specific way, I think about the same things. Those things happen simultaneously. Like it isn't like, and they're not things that one would normally be thinking about in that circumstance. But I'm trying to figure out if the movement is what makes me think of the thing, or the thoughts bring on the movement, or if both of those two things, that movement and those thoughts, are stored on a particular frequency band for me. And if I hit that frequency band, then all of that stuff resides there.
You and I talked about this. We did a show with Michael Wan and we went deep into the OA and the dancing
Yes.
there.
Yes.
I know that anytime I have a big like transformational journey or a big breakthrough or a quantum leap, or like, you know, I transmute a big shadow and I dance it in, a new way of moving opens up to me. And I know that those new ways of moving are connected to what information bands are now available to me. Yeah. I don't have the answer to the chicken and the egg part, but I resonate with what you're saying, dematerialized version of Emily.
What I noticed, like with dancing, because sometimes Laura will be like, I want to see you dance like this way that people have told me you dance. And I'm like, I can't do it unless I feel it. Like I need the right wave to ride. And like I hear certain sounds that makes me able to move like that, but I can't quite tell if I recognize that the frequency sort of the music sort of dictates both the thoughts and the dancing on some level, but there seems to be an implicate order to it that I can't quite get, like what happens exactly in sort of which order. But I think this is the thing that, like, when I first started communicating with my highest self in these sort of circumstances that I just like found myself in, like it told me, and it like what it was, and it's the sacred geometry of space, time, and sound, right? Like the very first time I asked the question, like, what the fuck is this that I'm looking at or experiencing here? And that's all it said. And every question I ever asked from there on out, and eventually I stopped asking, that was the only answer I ever got. This is the sacred geometry of space, time, and sound. This is the sacred geometry of space, time, and sound. And like I remember the first time I heard it, it was like in 2007 or something like that. And I went home and I researched what that was, and there was like no returns on what that was, right? And every once in a while I will go and I don't know if it's maybe it's a term that other than whatever intelligence was speaking to me that may or may not have been myself, that who uses that term, but
Right.
it's the most important term for me in my head about what I'm doing or what's happening or whatever it is. So I just wonder if there's like a sound that like if those things if those three things, space, time, and sound, get into some sort of geometric proportional sort of movement, like way of wrapping themselves around each other that order things in ways that allow you to sort of connect one time to another time through sounds and movement and you know whatnot, right?
I'd like to introduce you to my friend Don Estes. I think he could help you connect the dots on this.
Okay.
Because his realm of mastery is sound and like mapping sound. Just remind me to do that because I feel like you guys will come to some good stuff together.
Sounds good. All right, let's go to the chat box. Hi, kids. What you got? What you got? All capital letters.
If you have questions for us.
If you have questions, comments, intel to add to the pod.
Nish is in the house and she's very popular. Everyone loves Nish.
Everyone loves Nish.
Including us.
Including us, absolutely. All right, let's see. I'm going to try and read the small letters to see if I see any interesting questions or comments in there.
You're getting compliments on your gorgeous hair.
I see that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay, so I just saw that Woo Goes There said, for the past few months, I get sick if I drink milk, and I'm sorry that you're going through this. So this fucking ridiculous SFI eugenics talk I went to yesterday that Emily and I are going to deconstruct tomorrow, straight-faced and with all seriousness, part of the presentation was how white supremacists drink milk because it was the beverage of the European elites. And so they flaunt their milk drinking as part of their white supremacy. Like it was like a 5-year-old's attempt to describe what reality, like it was so dumb. And the audience actually bought it. Have you heard this? Drinking milk is white supremacy?
So I feel like this was an issue. Like, remember when that whole thing with like paper bags and brown bags, like there was some weird like brown bag conspiracy that was somehow, but milk was part of that too. But so then are we basically saying that the raids on the Amish raw milk farmers are really Aryan Nation raids? Like what the fuck are we talking about? Right? Like
Seriously.
I have heard this idea before. I have heard this idea before. Okay, let's see what's going on here. I don't know why it's so hard for me to read the chats. I don't mean like I can't see them. I just mean like there's just so many things on the screen. I don't know what to look at first.
Spirit suggests you research Magical Passes by Carlos Castaneda. I do them every day, Wendy, and thank you for tapping into that. I love them.
Thank you. Yes, I am familiar with the Magical Passes, both from my researches with Michael in the glass bead game, and of course from Hunter and some other sources as well. And yeah, that's definitely my experience. Like my experiences with dancing match that idea on a number of levels.
Emily, what is your spirit or totem animal or animals?
I mean, I know what my favorite like animals are, like which ones like get me the most like excited inside. But I don't know if that means I don't know. I really love cottontail rabbits. I love bunnies.
Oh my God, you would love where I have bunnies all freaking day.
Yeah, most of the places that I've lived, like I started having cottontail rabbit sightings when I lived in Tucson, and then I have them here, and I had them in Van Nuys. They're like there's I don't see less of them here, so when I see it, it's like more special.
Yep.
I like that a lot for a variety of reasons that has a number of meanings to me. When we were in Africa in the bush on safari, I saw a 2-week-old baby elephant, and I knew that that was the reincarnation of my grandmother. Like, I looked at the baby elephant and it was like, oh my God, my grandmother is in there, right? My grandma had like that elephant memory and loyalty and like all of that kind of stuff. But like the little baby looked right at me and I was like, oh my God, that is my grandmother who had died a few years before that, right? And elephants usually gestate for 2 years. Right, like they are pregnant for like 2 years, and that it was a few more years than that, but I don't know. I just in the instant it was the knowing, so I always thought that was like kind of cool. I don't know, what about you?
Mine are the raven and the coyote.
Ooh.
Shocker.
I like wolves a lot too. Like them, when I hear the song "Hungry Like the Wolf" from Duran Duran, like I do start to like feel like a wolf. Like I start to drool, right? I start to smell like I don't know, like I feel like my wolf.
It's your werewolf song.
My wolf programming is being activated or something like that. Like I'm Teen Wolf or something, right?
Nice.
Okay, what else we got here? Can you pull up where you think the portal is on Google Earth? It's really easy. If you just look up. So I mean, I think all of Austin is portal light, but the power spot, there's a few super powerful spots. And for me, the most powerful spot is the area where Shoal Creek and what they now call the Butterfly Bridge kind of come together. There's a couple of hotels and apartment buildings on there. There's a power plant, and it's where the Austin City Music Hall used to be. And it's interesting, people who are like not in our realm of discussion or belief or interest or anything like that, sometimes like will hear me talking about this out for drinks or bar or whatever, and they'll be like, I was just listening to what you said. And at first it sounded crazy, but then it actually explained an experience I had at the this and that concert at the Austin City Music Hall. So now it's given me something to think about. You know what I mean? Like that kind of, right? It was a very magical place. The Austin City Music Hall was like, I started having things that were like inexplicable to me happen when I started going there. And I think it's a place where one time can connect to the other, because it seems like in 1999, I downloaded information that I couldn't know then, but the me now knows, right? And so it's almost like I was able to connect with myself then to now, right? And pass that information sort of through the hole, right? Because I was dancing at the party, and then like I knew all this stuff about the history of dance music that I didn't know prior to that. And it just happened while I was dancing, but I know those things now, right? And so if I go to that place now with all the knowing that I have, does that create like a stain or like an energy scratch on that space that can be accessed from other points in time, right? Mm-hmm. I think Austin does that a lot. I think you can go to a certain location and access all the different times at that location, right? And I also think it's possible that you can access sort of different, I think you can use time or space as your like the, like tetherball, like there's a pole and then there's the ball spinning around it. So you can make time your pole and space your ball, or dimension your ball, or you can make dimension your pole and time your ball and spin one around the other. Like I think some locations are better for one or the other. I actually think that like that's some of the ways that the different secret societies and organizations sort of separate themselves, is the style that they use in order to do this, what they make sort of which part of the equation, right?
That's interesting. That's
like, interesting. I think the OTO, the order of I can never say it. How do you say it? It's basically the order that orients
Thelema or thelemic?
No, OTO. I can never say the words, like Ordo Templo Orientis. Ordering time, like I think it's like orienting yourself in time. The order that orients yourself, right? Ordo temporal. I can never say it. I don't know why. But you and I had this discussion once before when we were talking about why some people moved here because of what was going on here at this time, having to do, right? How you order things temporally in space. Right? Ordo tempor orientalis or something like that, right? Like,
well, that's interesting. Order, right? Because they're all orders, but order is like, are you putting time first? Are you putting space first? Are you putting dimension first?
Right. Are you arranging time around dimension, or are you arranging dimensions around certain timelines or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
Like, I think that there's many methods that you can use in order to gain extra time or extra space. And there's lots of people in our, that are masters of this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Did
All
I ever
right.
tell you I was in one of those mystery schools, Temple of Thelema?
I don't think you told me.
It was kind of a nightmare. I just had a crush on this guy who was in it, and I was I did their year-long tarot study group, and then because of the crush, I'm like, I want to be in the mystery school too. And so I had to go through all these like preliminary steps, and then they had the big ceremony for me, and the second it started, everything in my body was like, fuck no. Like, this is such a loud no. But I was like embarrassed and didn't want to make a scene, and so I like went through the motions, and then they wouldn't let me out, and it like took me a good 8 months to convince them, like, no, I really hate this, like I really need to be let out. And it was like this giant negotiation.
Doesn't surprise, based on where we come from, that doesn't surprise me at all. But I liked that voice, that character you dropped into when you were talking about that you had a crush, and so whatever, like, you should fully develop that character for one of your puppets. Right?
What did it sound like? I don't even know what I did.
You'll listen back, like it was
Okay.
very interesting. Okay, so Jim has one more question, so we'll take this one, and then let's wrap it up, because Laura and I are sharing a car today, so I have to go pick her up from work.
Word.
Okay, so how crazy was the 70s Saturday AM show Land of the Lost? Portals, crystals, underground tunnels, reptiles, portals. Yes. Okay, so I've talked about this before, right? So I was obsessed with that show when I was little. And part of the reason I was obsessed with it is because it was really hard to find. Like, it was one of those, it wasn't like fucking, the Smurfs or, Inspector Gadget that you could find at the same time on the same day at the same place every week. It was like they moved
I thought it was every Saturday, Sunday morning. I hated it because I was afraid of the slee stacks.
For me, it was like, I think part of it was probably, I just was not home when it was generally on. So occasionally I was, and I could see it, but I was always looking for it. I am 100% convinced still to this day that that is real, and that the dinosaur eat thing on the way to Palm Springs is the symbol that, like, it's in that area back there. Like, I don't think this is a made up thing. I think it's a fucking real, I think it's like dramatized for television. But I think both Land of the Lost and Jurassic Park are sort of toying with us, and that is what exists right behind the eat dinosaurs in those hills there, which is interesting because if you watch, like, if you read like The Octopus and Danny Casolaro and whatnot, that Indian reservation that runs the casino there and the little shopping center and stuff like that, that's where all of that sort of layer of the conspiracy cake in the 70s and 80s was being run out of. So of course they would be setting shop up on an interdimensional portal. Go ahead.
Well, and it's also where that movie was set that you wanted me to watch with
Don't Worry, Darling. Totally. We're completely
Yes.
Don't Worry, Darling.
That one.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I've had this thought before, but like, I love when I have thoughts and then some talented visual artists decide to like give me all of my thoughts and previous closed eye visuals on the screen in front of me so I can examine them in a different way. And Mayan Warrior fits that bill, and I got a big dose of that this week. I think part of the reasons they call them projects has to do with projectors, film projectors, and that each, like, my dad had one of those like circular film projectors, and he used to get his pictures developed on the slides, and then he would project them onto the wall. So I think like a lot of these projects are encoded in slides and stored and sort of played back to us in this way that is that's what was going on in Don't Worry, Darling, is she was like drugged and in a bed and had her eye open like this, and there was a slideshow going on the fucking ceiling, right? And they had this one really great visual that was like so cool to look at, and I realized at the end that they were showing us the old 70s slide projector tray and how each slide was a portal to another reality. Like each bit of information that was contained on the slide, if you took it out and opened it up, it like opened up a whole nother universe. Right?
Did you have a viewfinder?
What's a viewfinder? That's like the little one like this?
It just had like a click,
Yes,
click.
yes, yes.
Move it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you just said projector because Christine Rose wants to know what your human design is. If you're also a manifesting
I'm a
generator.
manifesting generator.
Yes. So yes, we both are manifesting generators.
Yes.
Another question answered.
Like Robert did it for me one time, so I know like the second order of information besides just manifesting generator, but it was a while ago, and I
Do you
can't.
know your numbers?
It's he did it for me, and I'm sure there probably exists an email or a screenshot or something somewhere, but I struggle with organization and finding things, so
I can relate.
Anywho, all right, I think that is going to be, thank you, Woo Goes There. I work on it, and it feels nice when the thing I worked on lands on people and they receive it the way I intend it. So thank you. All right, I think we're good. We're good.
We're good. We're great. Thank you guys so much for your super chats and your support and your great questions. And we love you.
And we love you. And we're recording a new regular Words podcast tomorrow. We'll probably be up on Friday or Saturday. So wordspodcast.locals.com. Welcome to Words, all one word in capital. See you there. Bye.
Bye.